King Harald was a holy knight who actually betrayed the gorosei and the world government. Now, it's not too crazy to speculate this given all of the evidence that we have. The first biggest piece of evidence is just how Saint Summers was talking about King Harald at the end of chapter 1146. Schools, libraries, what kind of peace-loving nonsense is this? You people are warriors. You're going to use the vicious, violent power that once terrified the world in service to us as mercenaries. Isn't that right, King Harald? And then stupid Harald had to go and screw it all up. Now this is very interesting because it does seem like that one line, "Isn't that right, King Harald?" does show that there were conversations between the world government and King Harald himself. And this isn't too surprising if you consider the fact that there already is a teleportation circle within King Harald's own castle, meaning that yes, as a fact, the world government and specifically the God Knights and potentially even the gorosei have actually visited King Harald's own castle and even had time to set up that teleportation circle, because we know you cannot just teleport anywhere in the world with this teleportation circle. It seems like there either needs to be members of this abyss or people who are part of the abyss, such as the God's Knights and the gorosei, which is how the gorosei actually teleported to Egghead because one of the gorosei was already there, and it's how the two holy knights, Saint Summers and the dragon Quillin, awesome mythical devil fruit by the way, both teleported there because Shamrock was already there alongside Gunko. So this just shows you that yes, in the past the holy knights had visited. And again, just this wording that Saint Summers even speaks as if he's met King Harald and he's disappointed in him because he had to screw everything up. Another piece of evidence that greatly suggests that King Harald was actually a part of the God's Knights is the entire fact that he died. That day something happened where many giants died in a big fight. Loki was there, and the legendary warrior Beardhild Jarl, I think that's how you say his name, he was also there, and we see that the sword stuck inside of Jarl's head is actually King Harald's sword, which is crazy. It does go to show you that he was stabbed with it. Now of course this isn't too shocking of a theory, I'm guessing people have already seen this or talked about this before, but it is really interesting to note that that sword is inside there. It's always possible that maybe Loki could have just grabbed King Harald's sword and stuck it inside of his head, but it also does seem that Beardhild Jarl's memories are affected after that sword had gone through his head, meaning maybe Jarl actually found out that King Harald was a traitor, but because his memories were messed up, he doesn't actually remember, which would go into the reason that he would think Loki is the betrayer when actually it was King Harald. Now just why did King Harald build these schools and build these libraries? Now I actually think this goes deeper into a plan to weaken Elbaf's defenses. It's very similar to how the world government, I guess it's actually the Marines, both of them simultaneously went to capture Wano after Kaido's defeat, and they wanted to do this while Wano was weakened, but of course they couldn't do it because the borders of Wano were not brought down. It could be a thing where King Harald was actually weakening the defenses and the future generation of Elbaf to make these children not as strong so that they can be captured. And I will say, this is not a new thing where a king, specifically actually, king in One Piece is portrayed as a benevolent king or a great king, and we've seen this with Doflamingo and even Crocodile, where he wasn't exactly the king, but he's portrayed as the savior of Alabasta. Many of the times these figures who are portrayed as such are often actually very evil, and we've even seen the reverse where Kuma was known as the tyrant. He was known as a very evil king, but what was actually true in reality was that he was a benevolent king loved by all. It seems like there is this trope where the opposite is true, and just remember in Dressrosa, the previous king, King Riku, he was actually said to be this very evil king. He went crazy and attacked everyone, but in reality that's not what was actually happening. So it just seems to fit in with the narrative writing and specifically the writing style of Oda, because he has the same pattern that he goes time and time again where the opposite turns out to be true and what everyone thinks isn't really the case. It's classic Oda. He's done this a million times. Just analyzing his writing style, it really would not shock me that the benevolent king, the king that's so great, turned out to be evil, because often in One Piece what you think is true, it's often the opposite. This even goes to the main character where the world thinks he's violent, crazy. Leon Luffy's this emperor of the sea, a terrifying beast, when in reality he's a lovable goofball who's very sweet and kind. So of course, just narratively, King Harald turning out to be an evil person when he's been hyped up to be this great savior or this benevolent king who's the greatest king in all of Elbaf history, that would go in line with this writing style. Now this is very important, and it's the question that you may be asking: what then happened at the day that Loki was captured and supposedly King Harald died? I think this is all just a lie, because we see Saint Summers say at the end, and then stupid Harald had to go screw it all up. I think what was actually happening was probably a long time ago in in the past, King Harald was recruited as a God's Knight. Now, it could always be possible that this was done against his will, just as how they tried to recruit Loki and they said that if you don't join us, we'll kill this dog or something that he liked. It could have been the same case where they actually threatened to kill the children of Elbaf, and this is nothing new. We've seen this literally play out in Wano Kuni, where Odin was going to kill Orochi Kurozumi and Kaido, but then of course there was the whole, 1,000 hostages Kaido, and if you attack me, I'll kill these children. And then for 5 years, Odin danced in the streets so that the hostages wouldn't be killed. So very easy, the exact same thing could be going on, and it could be possible that King Harald, even though he was a holy knight and probably an evil king behind the scenes, it could be true that he was being blackmailed to do all of this. And all it took was one single event, one thing that actually made him go back against what he was even doing. So whether he was actually evil or just conflicted or being blackmailed, it doesn't really matter, because in the end, King Harald did betray the God's Knights. And this goes into the whole night with Loki. I suspect that something was going on. Maybe Loki found out the truth, or something just was happening. I mean, you can guess 1,000 different scenarios. This in and of itself isn't important exactly what happened that night, but what I think was important is that Loki's life may have been in danger, and he made a choice between Loki and the world government and the God's Knights, and he probably ended up choosing Loki, because whether he's evil or not, it does seem like King Harald does indeed love his sons and does take care of them, because we did see this when he was raising Hadrudin and Loki, and he was saying you need to look after each other, you need to take care of each other. Even though Hadrudin is a bastard son, he still is looking after him like his own son. One more piece of evidence that does lead up to the fact that maybe he may have been a God's Knight, which I truly do believe, and a betrayer. Whether or not he's evil or not, that's one thing, but I do believe he was working with the world government, is the fact that he did often leave Elbaf to make negotiations with other kingdoms. This could just be a cover-up for him going to Mary Jo's pub and meeting with the gorosei and going up the red line to the Holy Land, and maybe he was just saying, guys, I'm just going to another nation, I'm doing some negotiations, when actually he was just going to visit the gorosei. That could be the case, which would be crazy, but also it is an alibi as to what was happening at the time. I think it's just a needed twist that would be very good for this arc, where of course Loki, we can see he's not really an evil guy, although he's portrayed to be evil, and maybe the one who truly is evil is King Harald, who's portrayed to be this benevolent holy person. I think that would be quite an interesting spin on this whole thing. There also is the whole rock side of it as well. So King Harald was involved with Rock's Zebek, as Zebek actually visited Elbaf, and very likely it was probably to talk to King Harald as well. There also is the fact that Kaido is very similar to King Harald. They look very alike, and maybe this is just a coincidence that has been done before. We've seen some characters just artistically, Oda has drawn them very similar, so I wouldn't say that they're related in that way, but it is a very interesting comparison. Although I definitely wouldn't go as far as to say that like a secret son or something. Clearly not. I mean, Kaido's size and also just other factors, like how would that even make sense and how would it go into that? I mean, I guess maybe if King Harald went and had a child while he was on one of his journeys outside to negotiate with a kingdom, I guess that's possible, but yeah, I really doubt it, because then the child would need to be half giant, and we've seen half giants tend to be huge, like Scopogaban's son, Cole. But yes, the main point is, I think he did, for whatever reason, choose to betray the Holy Knights at the very end, at the day that he died, and that's probably how he actually redeemed himself, and he did that to save Loki. Now, for some reason, Shanks is involved in all of this, and this is really crazy because I do not think Shanks is working for the world government, but possibly Shanks was also involved in that night. He may have actually helped or sided with the world government, not because he wanted to, but maybe because of these circumstances. And before you start saying Shanks is a rat, blah blah blah, do remember that Goldie Roger did the exact same thing when he protected the slaves of the Celestial Dragons against Rock Zebek. It could be a case where, unfortunately, it was in the best interest of himself, or maybe just others, in protecting people to actually take down King Harald at the time, and maybe that's why Shanks did what he did. And it's possible that Loki was trying to help his father or protect his father, and that was the reason why Shanks may have had to take down King Harald. That could be the reason, because it does seem like Loki has a grudge and something to pick with Shanks for a reason. Something went down that day. Loki did get the mythical devil fruit, and it was after he got the mythical devil fruit that he went out on sea. It seems like all of this is connected. The pieces have been dropped, and specifically it's Saint Summer's words that King Harald had to screw it all up, implying that there was a plan, that something was in place. I do believe that King Harald ended up betraying the world government for this reason, and I think it's going to be very interesting as to once we actually get that flashback and see just exactly what happened with Shanks, with Loki, with the Holy Knights, with the gorosei, why there's that circle in the castle, castle, why King Harald screwed everything up, Rocks Dizebek, how he's tied to everything. Just what was King Harald's true intentions and what was he actually doing behind the scenes? I think this is something that's going to shock us all, and that sword in Jarul's head, the Abyss summoning circle being in his castle, all of these things have to play into account for something. Let me know your own thoughts in the comments down below, especially if you have any theories of your own, and if you did enjoy the video, be sure to leave a like, it helps out a ton, thank you, and of course subscribe for a ton of consistent and quality One Piece content just like this. Trust me, if you love One Piece, you will not regret it, and that's all from me. Have a great day, and take care.